Good morning, this is your Math Sensei, Mr. Spensei, and this is continuation of the test review, and we're dealing with function notation primarily. Please remember, you need to know that the x's are the domain, they're the inputs, and they're the cause. The range is the output, they're the y's, and are f of x. Please remember, f of x just means y. So anytime you see f of x, it just means y. All right? And that's what it says here y equals f of x. So y is a function of x. All right. The y is equal, f is function, and there's the x. All right. So for the equation y equals negative 3x plus 7, complete the t-charts and use the exercises below. Use the calculator for the tables. I'm going to do this two ways. I'm going to do this using the calculator, and you're welcome to do that. And I'm also going to use it by Desmos. So y equals, and I use the little negative button at this bottom. All right, so really I'm plugging in this. Y equals parentheses negative 3x plus 7. That's the negative button, looks like that at the bottom. All right, once I do that, I press blue and graph, and I go, oh, when it's 0, this is 7. When it's 3, it's negative 2. When it's negative 3, it's 16. Scrolling down, when it's 6, it's negative 11. And when it's 9, it's negative 20. Continuing with the calculator, please remember, this is just saying this is y. Now they're asking for what's x. Well, they gave me y, so I have to scroll and find these values. So we're going to scroll all the way up to 34. We find 34 happens to be negative 9. Then we have 19, and that's negative 4. 16 is negative 3. 10 is negative 1. And we scroll down to negative 5, and that is at 4. Okay, so now to use Desmos, we're going to have to be trickier. All right, so I'm going to scroll over to Desmos. I've already typed in the y equals negative 3x plus 7, and we're going to flip over to that screen in just a second. All right. Hopefully you're looking at the y equals negative 3x plus 7. And the very first thing it asked for was f of 0. And I guess I need to go back and point something out. So let me try to stop sharing. All right, stopping the share. This is f of 0 means x equals 0. This means x equals 3, x equals negative 3, x equals 6, and x equals 9. X equals 9. And then the lights just went out. There we go. And x equals 9. So I need to go back, and I'm going to plug those equations in below it. I'm going to start with the x equals 3. We're going to do this one. We're going to come back and do x equals 0 last, just because it doesn't show up well on the screen. And I want you to get used to looking for the answer. All right, so trying to go back to the share. All right, so we're going to start off with x equals 3. And I just type in x equals 3. And I just notice I have a blue line, and where they cross is my answer. And where do they cross? I can just put my x3 negative 2. And that's what we got when we used the calculator. When I wanted to make it negative 3, negative 3. And I get, in this case, 15.93, but I'm not exactly over it, so that's 16. And then I do x equals 6. And by the way, you may have to zoom out at some point. But see, I see it at negative 6 or 6, negative 11. And then I do x equals 9. And that becomes 9, negative 20. All right, I said I was going to do 0, and the reason I was held off on that one is because it doesn't show up real well. All right, Sometimes it might be in black and you have to sit there and look for it, but 0, 7. All right, so when X is 0, Y is 7. All right, so that takes care of what happens when it's X. Let's go back and look back at our screen real quickly. And now we want to do it when Y equals 34, Y equals 19, Y equals 16, Y equals 10, and Y equals -5. All right, with that being the case, let's go back to our share, because now we're just going to type in Y values. So this first time, up here I have X equals 0, but I'm going to change that to Y equals, and the very first one it asked for was 34. And I don't see my answer, so I need to zoom out. There it is. That's where they cross. So where they cross is my answer, and we're looking for the X value, and X equals -9. The next thing it asked for is Y equals 19, so I'll just change that 34 to 19. And I get -4. The next one, Y equals 16. And by the way, if I want to, I could zoom in and I get -3 for my X value. Then I go Y equals 10 and I get -1 for my X value. And finally, it asks for Y equal to -5. And I'm just going to zoom in to show you that I can. And Y equals -5, we find that that is at +4. All right, +4 for our X value. So where they intersect gives us what those values are. Okay, we're going to come back to this in just a moment. Actually, you know what? Yeah, we're going to come back to this. The next thing, it asks for find Y when f of X equals 9,204. But f of X, so Y equals f of X, which equals 9,204. So Y equals 9,204. It says find f of X when X equals 130. What they're saying here is they want to find f of -130, which is equal to -3 times -130 plus 7. These mean exactly the same thing because this is saying f of X equals -130. Now, I can do this by going to I can plug this into the calculator, and I think I will this time, and then I'll come back and do it via Desmos. I can just second quit, and I should have a clear screen, -3 parenthesis, -130, close parenthesis, plus 7, and I get 397. So f of -130 equals 397. All right? And basically what that's saying is if x is -130, well, I'm having trouble writing, -130, then y happens to be 397 because this is my X and this is my Y. All right, using the calculator, do the same thing for f of -7. Well, we already know that f of X equals -3x plus 7. And they're just saying plug in -7 for the x's. So this would be f of -7 equals -3 times -7 plus 7. So -3 parenthesis -7 plus 7. So that gives us 28. So f of -7 equals 28. All right? And then it says find x when f of X is -35. So they're saying -35 equals -3x plus 7. All right? So I need to solve that. Or I can go to my calculator and go back to y equals, and I can go blue graph, and I can scroll till I get to -35. It turns out negative 35 is at 14. So in this case, x equals x equals 14. And what that really means is that when x is 14, y is negative 3. And up here, when x is negative 7, y is 28. Now I'm going to go back and redo those same problems using Desmos. All right. So moving back to Desmos. Sharing yet. There we go. So it says y equals, this case, they say when x is negative 130, that was the first one. X equals negative 130. All right. Well, negative 130 doesn't show up, so I'm going to zoom out a long way. There it is. Where does it intersect? Oh, it intersects at 397. So if we zoom out, we can get there. All right. The next one was x equals negative 7. We might as well zoom in a bit so we can see it better. And it's negative 728. The last one is y equals negative 35. Again, I don't see it on the screen, so I'm going to zoom out. And there it is. What's my value? Well, it's 14. And that's exactly what we got on our paper. All right. Appreciate you watching. Let's move on. Stop our Zoom or stop our share and move on to our next couple of problems. All right, our last four problems. Given g of x equals 4x minus 2 plus 3, what's g of negative 2? Well, basically, they're telling me this is g of negative 2. They're saying just plug in wherever I have an x, plug in negative 2. So this is 4 parentheses negative 2 minus 2 plus 3. So I can go to my calculator, and I highly recommend you do it this way. You can use the Desmos calculators, that's fine. 4 parentheses, negative 2 minus 2, close parentheses, plus 3. And I get negative 13. So what that means is when x is negative 2, y is negative 13. All right? Here we're doing the same thing, but this is my x, so we're going to plug in f of negative 3 equals negative 3 parentheses negative 3 minus 2. And I'm just going to plug that into my calculator. So negative 3 parentheses, negative 3 minus 2, close those parentheses, and I get 15. So f of negative 3 equals 15. So that means my x value is negative 3, and my y value is 15. All right, Anna sells magazine subscriptions door to door. She receives $3 for each subscription sold, the greatest number for each. That's important. So that means that's like 3x. The greatest number of subscriptions that she has sold in 1 hour is 4. Give a reasonable domain and range for 1 hour. Well, and it should say for 1 hour, and it doesn't. So the domain means could be 0 hours, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Well, then I need to find out what it could be. Well, I can go to y equals 3 parentheses x, close parentheses, blue table, and in this case, the range would be, my y values could be 0, 3, 6, 9, and 12. And that's if you said that they had to work even hours. If she worked even hours, it's this. All right. On the other hand, it could have been done as an inequality, and you could work parts of an hour, in which case the domain would be 0 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 4, because she does it never um, um, she never sells more than 4. All right, in 1 hour. Oh, I'm sorry, this is incorrect. Yeah, she either sells 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4 in an hour. And if she sells 0, she's going to have $0. If she sells 1, she gets $3. If she sells 2, she gets $6. 3, she gets $9. 4, she gets 12. Because essentially what we have is a T chart of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 0, 3, 6, 9, 12. All right, those are my ordered pairs that I could graph. All right, let function f of s equal 4s, where s represents the speed in miles per hour. Well, speed is continuous. All right, so that means I'm going to have to use inequalities of a car and represents the total distance traveled. If the car's maximum speed is 65 miles an hour, what's a reasonable domain for the function? All right, so we know that it's 4s. Well, it could be going 0. So the minimum it could be going for the domain is 0. The maximum is 65. So 0 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 65. That would be my domain, because we can't go slower than 0 and we can't go faster than 65. My range would be 4 times that. So let's go back to y equals, put a 4 in there. And we go, well, actually, we don't even have to do that. Let's just clear and let's plug in these values, because it's 4s. Because our f of s equals 4s. Well, s could be 0. Well, 4 times 0 is 0. So 0 less than or equal to y less than or equal to, we can't go faster than 65. So 4 times 65 equals 260. So the speed that the function s could be anywhere from 0 to 260. All right. Appreciate you watching. I hope this helped and look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you.